Some years ago, I interviewed Dave Brubeck, the famous jazz musician and composer, about his life and work. Brubeck was an instinctive, a natural musician, and as far back as he could remember, he was composing tunes in his head and performing them. As a young man, he thought it might improve his compositional skills if he went to music school, so he applied. And he was turned down because he couldn't read music. And I want to meditate on that paradox for a few seconds. How did what we loosely call art first start? We don't know, of course, but of one thing we can be quite certain. Art came before art theory. The making of art came before art criticism. Music came before notation. And if we apply that to music, we realize that the hearing of music in the head and the making of that music on the chosen instrument preceded notation, the language that was invented to help others read or interpret the original music that came through the spirit of the musician, the composer. Inevitably, the interpreters and critics begin to assume a more important role than the actual artists who provided them with the subject of their study in the first place. The great German sociologist Weber called this process the routinization of charisma. It's a horrible phrase, but you get the meaning. The gifted artist or composer does the work, but along come the process people, the routinizers, and they take it over and they tell you how to think about it and how to look at it and who's in and who's out. Dave Brubeck was a natural musician, as all great musicians are, long before he mastered the theory of music, which was why he got into trouble with the professors at the music college and they wouldn't let him in. But they now study the music at that college that he was not qualified to enter. Now, I like to think of Frank Bruce as the Dave Brubeck of sculpture. He's completely untrained. It's quite obvious that he's also a great artist, an instinctive artist, a natural. It's true, of course, that if you get him going, he can talk of sculpture, and quite difficult to get him to stop. But the really significant thing about him is that he's been walking the walk of sculpture for 30 years, and he's only been talking really about it quite recently. And the other thing about his art that's compelling is that it appears to grow out of the very form from which its materials are taken. Artists look at the world and remake it through their art, helping those of us who don't see with the depth and intensity that they see with to look harder and to see more. Look at Frank's work and you see the beat and brutality of the natural world as well as its heartbreaking beauty. And that's why it's absolutely right that the setting of Frank's work is a forest. Here it's brought back to its own home, and it brings us back to look at it with new eyes. And it's an enormous pleasure to me to be given these golden scissors. Pure carat gold, with which I'm going to slice this tape and open the Frank Bruce Sculpture Park in the Cairngorms. So with these scissors I hereby open the Frank Bruce Sculpture Park. Do I get to keep the scissors? Just let me get my bag. You're going to take a wee walk, and I need my bag.